June was a ridiculous reading month for me. I read so much. I normally read 4, maybe 5 books a month. July saw me like double that number. It was ridiculous. I definitely owe it to the readathon from Shelf Space, the Olympic Games. I was the captain of Team Demeter. And while we did not win, I think we had the most fun because I had the best team. We were all just had fun and we were chill and we read some fantastic books that I'm excited to tell you about. The first book I ended up reading was a NetGalley arc, and that is Girl Made of Air by Nydia Hetherington. This book was surprisingly good. I went into it not knowing anything about it, only because it had a really pretty cover and the description was like circusy. I filmed an entire review for this, so I don't think that'll be up by time this is up. If it is, I'll link it. If not, you'll see it soon. It was good. It was very different. It was written very whimsically. I would definitely recommend it for fans of the Night Circus and the Starless Sea. It was really, really good, but it was written memoir style as well. So that was a little jarring at first. I wasn't expecting that. But we are following this girl whose name we only know as Mouse. And she is born and raised in a circus in England right after World War II. And she's kind of like an unwanted child. Like, her parents don't have anything to do with her. So she's kind of like befriended and raised by the tightrope walker. And then she ends up becoming this like great tightrope walker. And we follow her throughout her entire life. And then there's this mystery of this missing child that she's trying to find. And there's like tiny bits of magic. And there's like a story within a story. It's very magical and whimsical and nonsensical. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic standalone. Highly recommend you checking this one out. And if my review is up, go check that out. I also got to Flame in the Mist by Renee Ahdieh. This is a like light Mulan retelling. We follow this princess who is set for an arranged marriage. And she is traveling through these woods where she is like attacked by bandits. Her whole entourage is killed and she manages to survive and escape into the woods, and she takes it upon herself to figure out what happened. And, you know, she does the whole pretend to be a boy so she can learn what happens and kind of hide because she doesn't want to go back to her family yet. But then she's kind of taken in by this group of bandits that she thinks attacked and like killed all her people. It's so good. And there's a love story, and there's a little bit of magic. I'm really excited to get to book 2. Is this anything like fantastic and new? And no, but it's a quick read, a fun read, and I really enjoyed it. Because sometimes you just need a light, fluffy YA fantasy with a little bit of romance and some mystery, and so good. Moving on to another YA fantasy that was kind of light and fluffy and fun and just a quick read. That is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. Again, I loved this. This was such a good book. I highly recommend it. I definitely want to read the second book. I think it's just a duology as well, so that makes me happy. We follow this princess of this island nation where she's basically like proving herself. She has to prove herself that she is like ready to be the heir to the throne and show that she can kind of control her very dangerous like soul magic that she has. And something goes wrong and they're supposed to kill her because she can't control her magic. Something goes wrong. She ends up being saved by a pirate, and they kind of go on this adventure with like pirates and mermaids and trying to figure out what happened, and you learn a lot about the lore and the magic of the world, and I thought it was great. I absolutely loved Bastian. He is our like pirate love interest kind of boy, and then we have like a really fun like mermaid character, and our main character reminds me of like a slightly grown up Moana in a way. Like, I really enjoyed this. I think this is one that fans of YA fantasy will really love. It's light, it's fluffy, it's an easy read, and I recommend this one. Next up, we got to Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab. This is the third book in the Cassidy Blake series. I loved it. It's book 3 in a series that I love, so I'm really glad that I loved it. And in this one, we are following Cassidy and her family and her ghost best friend as they go to New Orleans to film another episode of her parents' paranormal investigation show where her parents don't know that their daughter can actually see ghosts. So that makes for some really, really interesting dynamics between kid and parent and ghost boy, that's her best friend that's always with her. And I loved it. Like, it's so good. It's definitely made me want some beignets. Like, let's be real. I love these books for their food because they always mention the food in whatever city they're set in. So these make for perfect booking and cooking, reading, and recipes videos that I like to do. So be on the lookout for one of those for like every book in this series. Coming up soon. I also read An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This was my Patreon book pick last month and I loved it. Again, this is like a YA fantasy, but this one is not what I would say is like a light and fluffy YA fantasy. This is a very dark, bordering on adult YA fantasy. Like, I could have seen this labeled as adult and wouldn't have second guessed it because there's a lot of, you know, death and torture and pretty dark adult themes, and it was good. We follow Lila as she is trying to save her brother and goes undercover to help a resistance against this empire in this like school that trains all of the like future officials, basically all the future military guys. We also follow Elias, who is a member of this school, but he doesn't want to be, and he's like planning to escape. And we follow both of them and their different journeys and how they collide, and I really liked it. I'm actually going to be reading book 2 soon, so I want to know how the rest of the story goes. Then I ended up picking up Full Metal Alchemist Volume 1. Oh, why did I not read this sooner? This was fantastic. I loved it, and now I need to read the rest of it. This was actually my very first manga, and y'all, I'm hooked. I need all the manga recommendations. It was so freaking good. I need to read the rest of the series. So, I actually looked for volume 2 last time I went to the bookstore and they did not have it in stock, so I'm probably just going to have to order it off Amazon, but this was so good. I want to watch the anime once I like read more, but I loved it. It was good. It's a little jarring to get used to reading manga when you've never read it before, just because like it's read from the opposite way than what us here in America are used to. So that took a little bit for my brain to adjust, but other than that, this was so good. Recommend it highly. I also ended up reading another middle grade book, and that is A Girl Who Drank the Moon. This was so cute. This is a middle grade fantasy standalone. I think it is really comparable to The Starless Sea, only a middle grade, if that makes any sense. If you've read them both, you would understand. Like, it's very whimsical. There's some story within a story, and it's just beautifully written. The magic is very soft, and it doesn't like get a lot of explanation, but it's just there. It's like you just have to kind of suspend your belief and be like, that's the magic of this world. That is what it is. So it's very fun, whimsical, light, and magical. I read this super quick. It is about this village who every year has to give one of their babies to the witch in the woods. And as the youngest baby born that year gets like left in the woods for the witch, and the witch is like, I don't know why they keep leaving me babies. So what she does is she feeds them starlight and takes them to like a couple towns over and gives them to a loving family. Well, one year, this girl, she ends up giving her moonlight by accident, which makes her extremely magical, and she ends up keeping her and raising her as her own grandchild. And it is just a very, very cute, sweet book. I loved it. There were some sad moments, like it was kind of heartbreaking, but it was good. And I loved it. I recommend picking this up. Even if you don't like normally read middle grade, I think this is a really good one for like fantasy readers that don't normally read middle grade but kind of want to. Definitely good. I also picked up and read Heretics Anonymous. This is so outside of my comfort zone. This is a contemporary standalone There is no fantasy. There is no sci-fi. This is a straight contemporary, and I adored it. I gave this 5 stars. Like, who is she? This is set at a, like, Catholic school, which I didn't go to Catholic school. I went to a very strict fundamentalist, like, Southern Baptist school, though, so I relate to a lot of the stuff in this book. And we're following, like, our main character, who is an atheist at this school, and he makes friends with other, like, outcasts. So the girl who is Catholic, but she wants to be a priest and change how Catholicism is kind of run and done by all the men. We follow a pagan, we follow a Jew, and, like, it is so good. I absolutely loved this. And like I said, there were so many things that, like, I related to, having gone to a very strict Southern Baptist school. I did an entire review for this as well. Don't think that one's up yet either, but if it is, I'll link it. If not, check out the playlist. I have a playlist of all my single book reviews, so it'll be on there. So make sure you stick around and watch that, hit the notification bell, and then you won't miss when I do my review of this book and see why I compare it to the movie Saved with Mandy Moore. That is one of my favorite movies, by the way, which explains a lot about me. All right, I also finished Queen of the Unwanted by Jenna Glass. This is the second book in the Women's War series, and I had some issues with it. I liked it overall. I will be reading Mother of All, which is the last book in the series, which is coming out soon. I have the arc for it, but I had some issues with this one. While I liked it, I felt like there were some character decisions that were made that didn't make sense based on the characters' point of views in book 1. And maybe it's because it's been so long since I've read book 1, but I felt like there was a lot of things that didn't make sense as far as, like, character motivations. But basically, we are following the same characters from book 1, and in this series, we're following a lot of women who are considered unwanted. So when women are unwanted, they are sent to what is called the Abbey and basically forced into prostitution. And it's a very patriarchal, kind of classical fantasy-esque world. Very, very dark. There's a lot of trigger warnings for, like, sexual assault, murder, all of the above. I have a review of book 1 if you want to check it out. It's old and it's a bad review, but you know what? It was one of my first ones, so you can check that out. I'll link it for you. And basically, some of these women ended up sacrificing themselves to cause the way magic works to change in order to protect women and better their lives. And it's like this whole thing to, like, take down the patriarchy, but there's just some stuff I would have liked to have seen. It's still very male-female. There's literally no talk of anything other than men and women and, you know, very straight heteronormative relationships, which it's fine. I'm sure those would be there as well, but, like, I feel like at some point there would be some, you know, some kind of, like, lesbian relationships, especially in the Abbey, where it's, like, all women and they're trying to not have to sell their body. Like, it just would make sense, right? And it's not there. But there were a lot of things that I did really like, and I want to see this series through. I recommend trying this series out. Definitely read book 1. I really liked book 1. So I'm excited to see if maybe book 3 kind of clears up some of my issues with this one. Now we are getting to my 2 favorite books of the month, both of which also have full reviews. I've been trying really hard to do a lot of, like, one-off book reviews because I like doing them. So I've been trying really, really hard. I know one of these is already up and one is, like, going up this week, I believe, so it might be up now. But that one is The Disasters by N.K. England. Y'all, this was one of my favorite books. I did a full review. Check it out. I'll link the playlist. This is a standalone sci-fi where we follow these kids as they wash out of the Space Academy on their very first day and are sent back to Earth, only to get caught in the middle of this, like, intergalactic battle because these people come and take over the school and, like, murder everybody but them. So now they're on the run. They're trying to figure out what happened, and they're on the run. And it's hysterical. Because they're all the outcasts. And we have such a diverse cast of characters in this book. So our main character is a bi male. We have a hijabi Muslim girl. We have a trans woman. We have a gay man. We have a girl with panic disorder. And it's just like the most beautiful ragtag group of found family you have ever seen. And I love it so much. And it's ragtag found family in space. What else do you need? It's fantastic. Definitely check out my full review. Whew. And the final book that I read is Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. This full review is definitely already up, and you can go see me just rave about how much I love this book. In this book, we are following Delina through pretty much her entire life from the age of like 7 to like 19. And in the very beginning of the book, her family is kind of just in this little village. They all live in the trees, basically. And the like spirits of the woods attack everybody except for her family is like slaughtered. And that's kind of how we found out that she has these abilities that a lot of girls possess. So girls that possess the abilities to kind of quell and control these spirits of the woods are sent off to this school to learn how to harness their magic and potentially become an heir to the queen, because the queen is the person in this world with all the power, and they are the ones that control all of these like woodland spirits and protect the people. Well, Delina is just okay, right? She's not a Mary Sue. She's not great at anything. She's okay. And man, does she bust her ass to try to be good. And she works really hard, and sometimes that's not enough. And I loved seeing that. This book was great. I am excited to read the rest of it. If you want to read some Sarah Beth Durst with me, though, who is now one of my new favorite authors, keep watching the channel, because there might be something super special coming up in August to do with this author, and I'm excited to tell you more about it later this month. Alright, well that is everything that I read in the month of June, and y'all, that's ridiculous for me. I know, that's ridiculous for me. I usually read like 4 or 5 books, and I don't even know how many. That was a lot. But I had a great month. I don't expect to read that much this month, or any other month, except for maybe December. Those readathons get me. They hype me up and make me read more. But I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed literally every single book I read. I did not read a bad book at all. You know what? I DNF'd a book. What was that? I did DNF a book. Library of the Dead. Library of the Dead. I had an arc, and I DNF'd it at like 10%. I forgot about that. But it just wasn't for me. It was written really weird. It felt like it was a middle grade, but like it was written like an adult book, and it was following a 14-year-old, but they talked like an adult for the most part, and then it was written kind of in vernacular from Scotland, which kind of threw me. It just wasn't for me, and I did DNF that. I did have a DNF, sorry. But other than that, I really enjoyed everything that I read and completed. Forgot about that one because it was at the beginning of the month. Anyways, let me know what you think of any of these books. If you've read them, if you want to read them, if you want to read some Sarah Beth Durst, let me know. Join my Discord, because I got some special stuff in store for you guys soon. Alright, well, my name is Jessie. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will talk to you next time. Bye.